this is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.
You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
This hour of The Greg Kelly Show is sponsored by Toys for Tots.
Wow. Day 6. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 days. And we're already, I mean, my gosh, this is almost total victory. Can you believe we got the guy, the bad guy, the theocratic, supreme Ayatollah, Grand Poobah's, imperial mystic ruler, Khamenei? Basically, 20 minutes into this operation, 20 minutes in, we got the top guy. You compare it to Saddam Hussein, who was on the run for almost a year when they found him in that hole. And then it took another, 2 years to have the trial, and what a mess. Yeah, in the meantime, an insurgency was raging and total anarchy and no weapons of mass destruction. This is by comparison, this is a clean, beautiful war. I mean, this thing it's going great. Don't believe the critics, right? I mean, there are always going to be bad things that happen in war. That's why we like to avoid war if we can. But sometimes we must fight. And the thing that has gotten almost, really, it's like an afterthought now. Khamenei was taken out that night. The successor to the Ayatollah Khomeini. That guy gave kids bad dreams in the 1980s. I remember that dude. He looked like the devil himself. He was running that country. He allowed the taking of the hostages. 1979 and 1989. He dies, and his hand-picked deputy is the Ayatollah. Becomes the next Ayatollah, Ayatollah Khamenei. And he died 20 minutes into the operation. How did they do it? How did they get that guy? Well, an amazing story. The folks at the Wall Street Journal went into it. It's just not getting enough attention. I still remember about Saddam Hussein. He slipped out of our... one of the other things, we were afraid to say that we wanted to kill Saddam Hussein. I mean, we made it quite clear once this thing started, right? Get him. Hit him wherever he is. We want to kill that guy. It's a totally legitimate target. We kind of pussyfooted around back in 2003 in Iraq and Saddam Hussein. Inside the operation that killed Khamenei, the good people at the Wall Street Journal did a deep dive, and Iran's leadership did not see the morning strike coming. On Saturday morning, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who typically went down into his bunkers at night when the regime believed Israeli attacks were likely to take place, was above ground at his residence. The unexpected daylight attack, Operation Genesis. I haven't heard that before. Did you know it was called Operation Genesis? Kind of cool. Operation Genesis. I kind of like it. What about Epic Fury? Operation Genesis killed Khamenei and was the opening blow in Israel and the U.S.'s war with Iran. Now, the Journal reconstructed the operation through interviews with current and former Israeli and U.S. officials, as well as satellite imagery, videos, and photos. Now, it's 7:30 in the morning, Iran time, which I believe is like 9 o'clock at night. It's a crazy country when not only are they 8 hours ahead, they're 8.5 hours ahead. That's the only country in the world that does it. For whatever reason, they're a half hour off of everybody else's clocks. Israeli F-15 fighter jets and other aircraft took off at 7:30 in the morning, Iran time, to attack their country's most carefully studied target. Khamenei had been in their sights before, but this time they had the go-ahead to kill him. For more than 2 decades, Unit 8200, a covert Israeli intelligence unit that specializes in phone intercepts and cyber operations, tracked Khamenei and Iran's top leadership, mapping their daily routines and habits. Analysts monitored senior officials' communications, increasingly relying on artificial intelligence to sift through a massive volume of intercepted calls. Hey, that's one thing, just in case you think somebody may want to kill you. It's a little tip they tell you. Try to change up your routine, Go out the front door some days, go out the back door, go in this way, go in that way, take the train, take the car, take the bus, different ways every day. Don't become a creature of routine. This is, of course, only if you're, I don't know, if you're in the mob or just in a profession where somebody might be wanting you dead and may have the time, bandwidth, and money to follow you for a little while. This is what they tell you. Change your routine. Israeli recruited spies and hacked into traffic cameras across the Iranian capital for real-time information, according to a person familiar with the matter. The Central Intelligence Agency shared information with Israel. On Saturday, they learned of meetings among senior leaders and that Khamenei would be at his residence that morning with members of his family, according to people familiar with the operation. To maintain the element of surprise, they would have to kill Khamenei with the first shots of the war, even before they disabled Iranian air defenses. If he escaped the attack, Israel feared he would be moved to a secure location beyond reach. So at 9:40 in the morning, the strike starts. Wow. What's going on at 9:40 in the morning? You can see everything. The sun is up, right? People are doing their thing. At about 9:40 in the morning, dozens of Israeli munitions fired from F-15 jet fighters, including Blue Sparrow missiles, began hitting their targets. The missiles were launched from a distance. Sparrows exit the Earth's atmosphere before crashing down. Wow. They exit the Earth's atmosphere before crashing down? Off of an F-15 jet? I don't think that's right. I don't think Sparrow missiles can do that. We've had Sparrows for a very long time. We've had them since the 1970s. I mean, some missiles, like intercontinental ballistic missiles, why would they go that high? They wouldn't go that high. I'll get back to you on that. Their high trajectory surprised people in the Iranian leadership compound. The precise air-to-surface missiles successfully struck multiple high-level gatherings in the compound. At around 9:45 in the morning, people across Tehran were watching smoke billow from the leader's compound. The Journal geolocated a dozen videos posted on social media from around the city in the immediate aftermath of the strike. Now, you've seen most of these things. And maybe you've seen the satellite footage of that compound. It's black and white, but boom, boom, boom. They all go up. After the killing of Khamenei, both the U.S. and Israel began attacking Iran's air defenses and other military infrastructure. The U.S. Navy launched Tomahawk cruise missiles and rockets, conducting strikes across southern Iran and taking out the Iranian Navy ships, hitting more than 1,000 targets in the first 24 hours. Israel sent in 200 jet fighters, nearly the country's entire air force. They soon struck... I'm a little surprised that they only have 200 airplanes. We got a lot more than that. They soon struck 500 different targets, including radar and detection arrays, air defense batteries, command centers, surface-to-missile systems, and the rest. At 5:47, a satellite image captured smoldering damage at the compound, which includes a vast mosque, a presidential complex, and the Iranian leader's residence. I'm looking at it here. All on fire. Wow. The strike damaged at least 6 buildings, including metal roofs and structures running between the buildings. Now, I want to know more about how they got him. Khamenei was above ground at his residence with his family during the strikes. Satellite imagery shows that area sustained the most visible damage. The strikes also killed top officials, including Khamenei advisor Ali Shamkhani, Defense Minister Aziz Nazadeh, Deputy Intelligence Minister Saeed Yada Hamidi, head of espionage Jalalpur Hussein, and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Commander Mohammed Pakpour, according to an Israeli security official. By nightfall, videos showing public gatherings across Tehran, Karaj, and Ifshan, where thousands of Iranians were celebrating or mourning Khamenei's death, a little bit of both. Top Iranian officials, the president, the judiciary chief, and an appointee from Iran's 12-member Guardian Council formed a temporary 3-person council to govern the country. Well, I'd like to know more about his last meal. I'd like to know about what family members were in there with him. I think his wife was. I'd like to know more about his last thoughts. Guess we can never know that. But how about it? They got him, and they intended to get him. Now, we did not intend to get Saddam Hussein right off the bat. And we did it at night, right? Very predictable. 2003, we did it at night. and he slipped away. And you know what happened? Well, the insurgency. I mean, you realize this makes President Trump look so good compared to all those rhinos, all those neocons, all the people who came up with that silly, stupid Iraq war. You know, a lot of people today who are opposing this, and I'm told that there are some prominent voices in MAGA who oppose the war in Iran right now. They're doing it because I think part of it, is they're just embarrassed by their support of the war in 2002 and 2003. Right? They gave a green light to that invasion, and there were no weapons of mass destruction. Listen to some of these people. This is a young Tucker Carlson talking with Paul Begala back in 2003. You know what? I have not kept up on Tucker's podcasts. I like and respect Tucker. I do. I love Mark Levin. I can't keep up with all the stuff that's happening on the podcasts. And sometimes I hear something that's said, and then I find out, wait a second, that wasn't really said. So I'm kind of steering clear of the controversy. I love Israel. Totally support Israel. What happened on October 7th? My God. And there's been no slaughter of children in Gaza. It's one of the biggest fake news lies. Not only fake news, it's a terrorist lie. It's a terrorist lie. I will also say that the counterattack had to be disproportionate. You have to hit harder than you were hit. Can you imagine if a Taylor Swift concert were hit by a bunch of terrorists, what we would do to those terrorists? Israel has acted with restraint, right? They go out of their way. They actually sacrifice their own to protect the enemy's women and children. Golda Meir once said, one day we'll be able to forgive them for killing our children, but we will never forgive them for forcing us to kill theirs. It's a very interesting way to put things. But women and children die in war. It's collateral damage. We try to avoid it. It will always happen. There will also be friendly fire. Horrible things happen in war. Always. But in this conflict, it's been kept to a minimum. All right, Tucker Carlson, 2002, debating the Iraq war with Paul Begala, a prominent Democrat, cut 8.
We learned today for certain that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, that has chemical and biological weapons. And the question remains, what do we do about it? And neither you nor any other Democrat I know has an answer to that question.
The question here is the president's credibility. He wants to lead us into war, and the majority of his countrymen and women are worried that he's lying to us, and for good reason.
That is not the question. The question is, there's a lunatic with weapons that could kill the civilized world. What do we do about it? And I await an answer.
Well, the answer was invading with 100,000 guys, and it was the wrong answer. No weapons of mass destruction. Before we go to break, one more. This is a very prominent conservative voice who is all for the invasion of Iraq, who is totally against what we're doing in Iran, and he's totally against Trump. Bill Kristol, ring a bell, cut 9, 2003, here he is.
And I think there's a good chance that the Middle East will be a better place if we stay to it in Iraq. If we stay the course, if we suppress the counterinsurgency, if we help Iraq get on its feet and establish a decent, federalist, democratic form of government, that will be an extremely important moment for the Middle East and will be well worth the cost in treasure and the cost in lives, I think.
You think, huh? Well worth the cost in lives from your little perch there, Billy Kristol, Trump hater. And then Trump shows up. What he says that has infuriated not only the left, but the right, the rhinos, the establishment, the swamp, right? He does not fit in, and that's one of the many reasons why we love him. We'll be right back.
This is the Greg Kelly Show.
When, and not if, but when Saddam creates and uses nuclear weapons, what will we tell the American people then? Will we tell the survivors that we didn't realize that Saddam Hussein had never finished his war against America? Will we tell them we thought the war was over?
Who was that? Sound familiar? He sounds a little bit different now. Mike Pence. Boy, he's turned out to be, what a disaster that guy was, huh? Mike Pence in 2002, very aggressively supporting military action against Iraq, in Iraq.
Hello, my name is Mike Pence. I am a Christian, an American, and a father in that order. And I'm very proud of the accomplishments of the Trump-Pence administration. On January 6th, I did my duty.
Well, you could have told everybody ahead of time, Mike, what you thought your duty was. Instead, he played footsie.
Like you, I have my doubts about the election. We'll hear the objections. We'll see the evidence. Excuse me. Look, you can debate. You can have a debate, and two good people can disagree about what the vice president's authority was on January 6th. But he is so self-righteous and smug about it. He's also deceptive, and he was deceptive, because he could have told the whole world that, look, I'm showing up on January 6th. If you're thinking about protesting, don't show up, because I'm rubber stamping this election. I'm just going to rubber stamp it. My read of the Constitution says that's what I have to do. Other people may disagree. That's what we have a Supreme Court for. You know, I supported. It was my role to defend the Constitution and follow the Constitution. I mean, overlooked in that is that very brilliant people look at the Constitution, and some people see one thing and some people see something else. 5-4 decisions happen all the time. Anyway, there was widespread support for that damned invasion of Iraq, and it turned out to be a total bust. One more. Senator Lindsey Graham. He's, let's face it, he's not so hot. We like him, and also we can't stand him at the same time. Depends on the day, right? Cut 11.
I'm glad we have a chance to create in the heart of the Arab world a democratic government where Sunni, Kurds, and Shias can live in peace, reject Iran, and deliver a decisive blow against al-Qaeda.
So knowing what you know right now, Senator Graham, and knowing what Senator McCain knows right now, even though there were no WMD, even though there were no links between Saddam and al-Qaeda or 9/11, you still think it was a good idea to go to war?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So Republicans supported it. Democrats supported it. This is one of the reasons why they are so mystified, stumped, envious, and resentful of President Trump. Because he shows up, right, 2015, starts running for president. He starts telling the truth. You see, Democrats and Republicans were all in on that war. The establishment, the intelligence community, the United Nations, right? They were all in on it. So they weren't like, they kind of wanted it to go away. Listen to what President Trump says out loud at one of the first Republican debates of all the candidates in 2016. Jeb Bush is standing right next to him, and he can't stand it. Cut 12.
You still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it? You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. Governor Bush.
How about that? Getting booed by the Republican crowd. It happened February 14th, 2016. Huh. It's amazing. Anyway, the people in MAGA, and there are some who don't like this thing, it's residue, it's leftover crap, hang-ups about Iraq. Because they have egg on their face still from back then, so they think they got to oppose this thing because it's too similar. It's not. And just because I didn't like Iraq doesn't mean I dislike all war. Well, I don't like war, but sometimes you gotta.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
Before we go further, I want to acknowledge that our trans community needs abortion care too. Defending trans Texans is something we have to do every day.
We have to, what the hell was that? The trans community has to worry about abortion as well. They say this guy is a moderate. That's Calarico, the new nominee for the United States Senate of the Democrat Party in Texas. You say something like that, ordinarily you would get kicked out of school. I don't know, man. And now he's up for one of the biggest jobs in politics. Eric Eggers joins us, the amazing Eric Eggers. He is the host of the Drill Down with Peter Schweizer, one of the great podcasts of all time. He's also on Background with Susan Crabtree, another fantastic podcast. Government Accountability Institute, all-time truth teller. Eric, welcome back. How are you?
Excellent, Greg. It's great to be with you. It's a very interesting time to be following the news.
Yeah, and also a little bit, I find this guy reprehensible. I find him repugnant. Talarico. I get a Buttigieg vibe from him, too, that he uses religion as a weapon. Just tell me about the new Democrat nominee, and then we'll talk about how he became it and all the kind of fraud, potentially. But what do you make of this guy?
Yeah, well, here's what's crazy is, you just played that clip, and as insane as it is to say those things, like those are the values that aren't just not shunned by the Democrat Party. They are selected and elevated. Donald Trump used to run The Apprentice. Think about who Democrats choose to represent them. You saw Tim Walz make a fool of himself yesterday in his testimony. Like, that's the guy who's presided over all this fraud. The Democrats thought, hey, let's make this guy vice president. Talarico has been the low-key selection of Democrats because they're actually entering their white male season, but Talarico is the Democrat version of the ideal white male. They've fabricated this whole controversy with Stephen Colbert and the FCC as a way of boosting his profile, and it worked because they knew that Jasmine Crockett would be even more of a disaster. But this guy, Talarico, is a dream candidate for Democrats, just like Buttigieg, because he's got insane views, but they're packaged in something they think they can kind of launder into mainstream America.
Yeah, no, and you're right to point out, it's not like he sat in a room by himself coming up with this ideology. This is what's fashionable right now in the Democrat Party, talking about six genders, talking about abortion and trans, the trans community. And then he'll try to say that Republicans are trying to divide us or, whatever. No, these are real issues. This isn't that fringe stuff. What were the fringe issues in the 90s? School uniforms. What the hell was the other thing?
Tax rates, hey, what should the tax rate? I remember we shut down the country for a minute because George W. Bush was trying to figure out stem cell research, and it was like he had to do a primetime address. So it was like tax rates and some of these things, and it's so insane how much they've shifted. COVID kind of laid bare that there's just two incredibly stark, different visions for what life can look like. When you put everybody in a room, you let them get online for 5 years, this is the kind of stuff they come back with.
That's a great way to put it. But having said that, they are crazy issues, but in a weird way, they're mainstream issues in that they've been forced into the mainstream. They will potentially affect my children, your children, our community. I mean, they're trying to make the insane the normal. So these are not like fringe issues anymore. This is right down the middle. These are things that we have to confront. This is not little clickbait or anything like that. This is real stuff.
No, it's true. And I think that's why programs like yours and, thank you for pointing out the work that we do with Peter Schweizer and the Government Accountability Institute on our podcast, The Drill Down. We just try to tell the truth, and we just try to present information. We actually did an interview with Buck Sexton, and he has a book out, and he talked about the transgender issues, and he said, the transgender thing is so important because it's the lie that's so obviously not true, but it gets forced so forcefully by these people, and they try to it's anybody can look at a baby and see what a man and a woman is, and yet you got James Talarico standing in front of people saying God is non-binary. And so I think, thank God that he's up for election in Texas, because I think that is one of the few areas in this country where they still do know right from wrong, and they can, call out lies from truth. So the Democrats may have won him over Jasmine Crockett, but I don't believe that he will become the mainstream selection of most people in that state.
Yeah, no, me too. Whether it's Paxton or Cronin, whatever his name. Hey, here is Jasmine Crockett. I don't know if she's still complaining about cheating or let's see here. What happened here? Go ahead with Jasmine Crockett.
Fred has already stated, we encourage each and every one of you to remain resilient. We cannot allow this type of behavior to be rewarded, Because so long as they know that they can win, even if it means cheating, then they will continue to do it. So I am asking you, I am begging you to make sure that you go ahead and figure out where it is that you are supposed to vote, stand in line, wait in line.
Just before the election, after the election, yeah, when it showed she lost, she was claiming cheating. Let me ask you this. She's a head case. But, was there cheating in this election?
Well, Greg, I'm going to go ahead and wait because based on what she said and based on the legal precedent that's been set by Donald Trump, I'm going to assume Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, is going to be bringing charges against Jasmine Crockett any minute now. So I'll just hold my breath to wait until she faces the litany of legal charges that Donald Trump did for raising similar questions about the legitimacy of his election. Now, in Fani Willis's case, in Jasmine Crockett's case, here's what I will say. I wrote a book called Fraud, How the Left Plans to Steal the Next Election. It actually came out in 2018, but I talked about how vulnerable our election systems were to cheating, and there's a number of instances in Texas and in Dallas County and surrounding areas specifically in which cheating and fraud can occur. I have not seen specific evidence of that happening in this election, but what I have seen, because I did some research, because I was intrigued, like my spidey senses were alarmed. Jasmine Crockett's raising concerns about, they changed the way they normally conduct elections. So I was like, I wonder who's in charge of the elections in Dallas County. So here's what I found, Greg. They hired a guy in September named Paul Adams to take over elections in Dallas County because Dallas has got 1.4 million people. It's a big county. This guy came from, he was the chair of the Democrat Party in Ohio. He seems like a perfectly reasonable person, but he came from a suburb of Cleveland. His county had 200,000 people. 75% of them are white. He now goes to Dallas County. It's got 7 times the population, and it's much more diverse. It's a majority Hispanic. They got a much more significant African-American population. And just different demographics mean different challenges in terms of administering elections and trying to keep track of things. It's one of the reasons why in South Florida you have so many different challenges because you just have a very different population. So, here's a guy he's on the job for less than 6 months. He's got an incredibly different kind of electorate to deal with. And, of course, they had some issues. But here Jasmine Crockett is saying, it's got to be cheating. One of my favorite phrases of all time, Greg, is never mistake incompetence with conspiracy. And, could cheating have occurred? Sure. But is it also possible that in Texas they decided to hire somebody who wasn't necessarily qualified for the job, was kind of new on this thing, and as a result, one of the people that they think embodies the future of Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett, she suffered as a result.
Okay. Well, look, excuse me. I am relieved that it's, people are actually seeing who this Tallarico guy is because he is crazy. He is radical. I mean, these values are not for Texas, and I don't see him winning against Cornyn or Paxton. And I'm kind of hoping it's Paxton, actually. I think Paxton can pull it out, even with the baggage, maybe especially because of the baggage. Go ahead.
Let me just say this. I think what's really interesting is, the Democrat Party loves identity politics, right? I mean, intersectionality was a big thing in the late 2010s, and then, COVID happened, but it's all been about, we're elevating diversity. It's one of the reasons why Joe Biden said, I'm going to have an African-American woman as my vice president. I'm going to have an African-American woman on the Supreme Court. Qualifications be damned. Well, they're swinging back the other way. And if you think about it, Gavin Newsom, in the wake of the 2024 election, Gavin Newsom, he started a podcast. His first 7 guests were white men. And then, so the Democrats are kind of, there's the whole not saying the quiet part out loud. The Democrats are embracing white men, but they're just not sort of being overt about it. But that's why that whole Stephen Colbert, the FCC says we can't have him on, or, CBS says we can't have him on, so we just have to release it on the thing. They made that up as a way of boosting this guy's profile. It was a way of Democrat operative Stephen Colbert boosting the white guy at the expense of an African-American woman. You could never have done that. They wouldn't have done it in 2024, which is why Kamala became the nominee without any votes being cast, because it was so anathema to Democrat priorities and values to ascend anyone over an African-American female. But they're done with that. They've seen how that loses and it doesn't work, and now they're coming on home to daddy being the white guy. And I'm telling you, but they can't admit it. It's so wonderful to see, but that to me is what Talarico represents. But like that's why I say Talarico is the ideal Dem white dude because he's so beta cucked with these crazy views on gender and everything else.
Well, to put ice cream on the cake, a la mode style, I think we're going to find something about his orientation that may help him, right? I mean, I don't care about his orientation. Most people don't care, but in the Democrat Party, that means a lot. It means, quite frankly, it's what made Pete Buttigieg a star. Right? You think the
That's true. If he was just a regular mayor of Indiana, who would care?
I mean, no, but what we're talking about here, I haven't said it out loud. Buttigieg is gay. And I don't care, but he sure is obsessed with it, and so is the political press corps. They wrote hundreds of articles about, what it was like for Pete Buttigieg as 11 to be gay. What was it like when he came out? What did his high school basketball teacher say? All this stupid stuff. Hey, do me a favor. Listen to this. Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, talking about the first submarine kill. U.S. submarine launched a torpedo against a great big battleship, Iranian battleship. Cut 16.
For the first time since 1945, a United States Navy fast attack submarine has sunk an enemy combatant ship using a single Mark 48 torpedo to achieve immediate effect, sending the warship to the bottom of the sea. I want to remind everybody that this is an incredible demonstration of America's global reach. To hunt, find, and kill an out-of-area deployer is something that only the United States can do at this type of scale.
Although the Chinese are catching up in terms of their power projecting. The one thing about it, and I think it's great. Look, we're at war. It's a genuine military target. Did you know that battleship wasn't in the Persian Gulf? I didn't find that out until like 20 minutes ago. It was all the way down by Sri Lanka. A valid military target. But anyway, how do you feel about the war overall? How's it going?
I have to say it's really interesting, and I was talking about this with Peter actually yesterday. They always say war is hell, but there's a lot of different ways to fight war, including the information that gets released. And you've got some factions now, both on the left and even on the right, Greg, that that the people on the left, they're not going to support anything Donald Trump does, and that means, kind of reporting on any positive developments in a war that his administration is fighting. But even sort of in some of the kind of the no forever wars, the Rand Paul aspects of the world, like they're going to sort of present what's happened as being negative as well, because I think they don't want the U.S. military to be successful in just this kind of limited strike capacity. So I'm paying attention to how what we're doing gets reported on as much as anything else. I will admit, I think I grew up in, the legacy of the Iraq and Afghanistan conflict. I also am not in favor of us seeing, this long-standing military conflict. But if we've been saying for 4 decades that Iran is the leading sponsor of terror, and there's lots of evidence to suggest that they have been, and we know, in fact, on my last episode of On Background yesterday, that, they arrested a guy the day before the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, who was an Iranian asset, who was accused of plotting an assassination attempt against Donald Trump. He planned it in Iran. So they have clearly been planning these things for some time. Donald Trump clearly didn't think the negotiation in the aftermath of our last round of bombing was going well, and so as they said, look, okay, the Ayatollah, you've had your chance. We're going to now replace you, just as we did in Venezuela. Who gets replaced is up to the people of Iran, just as it was up to the people of Venezuela. But we're not going to deal with people who we don't think are honest actors and who mean to kill us. And that's the action he took.
Well, anybody MAGA who is against this, what they're doing, I believe, on some level, is compensating for being for the war in 2002 to 2003 in Iraq. That's where the party was. That's where the Republican Party was.
True.
Support the war.
We were all there.
Right.
It was a fever dream. Yeah.
There were some exceptions. And this is what Trump did. This is why, quite frankly, the traditional Republican establishment hates him in a way, and they still do, I think. Here he is in February 2016 running for president, and he's saying all of this next to a Jeb Bush, who is totally flabbergasted that he's saying stuff out loud that is true, but Jeb has never even heard it before. Cut 13, please. Cut 13.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, it took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It took him 5 days before his people told him what to say. And he ultimately said, it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
I mean, Republicans did not want to hear that, and a lot of Democrats didn't want to hear that either, because so many Democrats were supportive of the war. And,
it's true, but as the kids say, spot the lie, and to your point, Donald Trump has been on the right side of this for some time, and I would tell you, Greg, it's so funny to hear you talk about Jeb Bush. Like, I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. He was the governor when I was in high school. He was cool. He was one of the first guys to have an email address, and he's a rock star in Florida politics. He was a rock star in Florida politics 20 years ago. People were shocked that his presidential campaign didn't do as well as everyone was expecting, but it's largely because of the legacy of the Iraq War that his brother litigated. You're absolutely right.
Eric Eggers, you are amazing. Please say hi to Peter Schweitzer. We'll catch you on the Drill Down podcast and also on Background with Susan Crabtree. Eric, thank you.
Greg, you're the best. Thank you.
All right. To be continued. What a moment that was, huh? I love it. I love it. All that truth coming down. And Jeb Bush and a lot of other people just couldn't handle it. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be. Thus far, Operation Epic Fury has delivered twice the air power of shock and awe of Iraq in 2003, minus Paul Bremer and the nation building.
Oh, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. When he started making that Iraq comparison, I got a little bit nervous. Oh, don't compare it to Iraq. But that's perfect. You mentioned Paul Bremer. This is so different. Paul Bremer. Does anybody remember that guy? Paul Bremer. For some reason, they called him Jerry, but his name is Paul. Paul Bremer. Who was he? He was basically an employee of Henry Kissinger. One of these, smart guys who just gets handed things, right? Rich kid. And for no reason whatsoever, I'd actually love to know the real reason why he got the top job in Iraq, the Coalition Provisional Authority, the CPA. This guy was essentially running Iraq post-invasion, and he was there for about a year, and he screwed literally everything up. Cut 7, if you don't mind. Cut 7.
And those who were on high before, in particular the Baathists, who used their power to repress the Iraqi people, will be removed from office. I will issue an order on measures to extirpate Baathist and Baathism from Iraq forever.
So what do you do if you're a Baathist? And what do you do if you're in the military? They disbanded the military. What do you do? Cut 5.
By early summer, Iraq was becoming a very dangerous place.
First week in June, the military had been disbanded. The sheikhs were telling me that the insurgents were paying them money, paying them up to $500 per operation. If they could videotape to show that they had killed someone, they got a bonus.
But it's got a military spin on it. Now you weren't seeing looting, criminal things as much as you were seeing grenades off of bridges, all types of things.
The insurgency, things blowing up, and that's why President Trump, the other night, he uttered some of the probably the most brilliant words of this campaign so far. Are you ready? It's actually about letting the guilty go. Cut 4.
To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity.
That's so amazing. It's something these diplomats and these eggheads did not understand. And he knows it intuitively. It's a great move. This is all going to work out. All right, folks. I ordered a emergency medical kit. It's been a lifesaver. It's got everything I need in there. Antibiotics like a generic Z-Pack to help me and you recover faster. Amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections. You know, this is going to be horrendous flu season. It's got prescriptions for UTIs, and there's ivermectin in there. Nausea, they got pills for that. Match your symptoms in the guidebook, or you just call the telemedicine doctor who's standing by, which is like totally worth it. Start treatment early, feel better faster, no waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines. I love my emergency medical kit. You should get one too. I got you $45 off when you use my code GREG, G-R-E-G. Just go to urgentcarekit.com/Greg, urgentcarekit.com/Greg, promo code GREG.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.